So the Chicago Bears just got a pleasant surprise, and it's an unexpected interview. It's coming right up, and it's from a guy whose team originally refused access to him. And you guys know by now, that's the Dallas Cowboys. And they just decided to cut head coach Mike McCarthy loose, and the Bears are interviewing him on Wednesday. So there's a question here. Is this a pleasant surprise to you? Let me know in the comments. And as well, does the Dallas job coming open, does that hurt the Bears' chances of landing Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson? And we're going to kind of go through this. If the hiring of Mike McCarthy, if it's a great hire or if it's a situation of we could do worse and we could do better. So with that, I want to go through this a little bit. What kind of coach is Mike McCarthy? Then we'll get to the rest. I mean, despite all his wins, McCarthy is being viewed by some as kind of an underwhelming candidate. And it's like as if the Chicago Bears would be settling for a retread rather than, swinging for a home run, swinging for the fences with a young up-and-comer like Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. He's the number one guy out on the market. But if we're going to be honest, let's be objective. Mike McCarthy is no slouch. And this is something I didn't realize. He's one of 8 active coaches with a Super Bowl title, and he has just 5 losing seasons in a 17-year career. And his 11 playoff wins, they're tied for 10th most in NFL history. I mean, he failed in the playoffs for the Cowboys, and he hasn't been perfect, but he's had a really good underrated run there. And look at it from Dallas's perspective. And like it or not, McCarthy's .583 winning percentage, that's second best by a Cowboys head coach since the glory days that they had, right, in the mid-90s. You guys remember that. And his 3 playoff appearances are tied with Jason Garrett for the most since the team won its last Super Bowl. And McCarthy accomplished that in half as many seasons as Garrett did. So, I mean, that's the confusing part, because the blunt truth is that McCarthy oversaw the most stable run of successful Cowboys football in a generation. I mean, that is kind of confusing because he just got fired. And when he was hired in 2020, the Cowboys, they hadn't made consecutive trips to the postseason since 2006 to 2007. And ultimately, his 3 straight 12-win campaigns from 21 to 23 marked the club's best regular season stretch since 1993 to 1995. Now let's get to the bad. We did the good. Let's get to the bad. It all pales in comparison if you compare it to what happens in January, though. 3 consecutive early playoff exits, bullied by the 49ers in 22, bullied again by them in 23, and then that was a humiliation at home by the Packers last year. And to date, the Cowboys are the only number 2 seed to lose to a number 7 seed since the NFL playoffs expanded 5 years ago, and that's the Green Bay loss. And as long as we're being blunt about this, it's worth noting that McCarthy's lone playoff victory with Dallas, it came against a Tampa Bay team that finished its season 8-9. I mean, not exactly a confidence booster in his playoff football prowess. So we're looking at a little more positive. The Cowboys did finish with a top 5 offense under McCarthy. Each of the last 3 seasons, he had a healthy Prescott. Let me rephrase that. In each of the 3 seasons that he actually had a healthy Dak Prescott, this offense finished top 5 under McCarthy. And speaking of Dak, McCarthy also oversaw his quarterback's only all-pro season in his career. And the Cowboys also finished more negative. They finished top 6 in penalties incurred in 4 of McCarthy's 5 seasons. So I don't like that. But let's look at this, though. This is a way better track record than I originally thought when we have the thought of, is this a situation that we can do better or we can do worse? Is it just meh? So first of all, let's talk about the interview. This interview appears to be a serious one. In fact, it will be in person at Hallis Hall. And the Rooney Rule, it has been partially satisfied by meeting with Ron Rivera. One more is needed. A lot of people are saying that the Thomas Brown interview that just happened, that satisfies the rule, but it does not. It has to be an external candidate to fulfill the Rooney Rule. I'm going to give you my opinion on him. But first, let's really just look at some more facts, some more numbers here. He isn't a slouch. And when you really look at what the Bears have gone through over the last decade, he's definitely a huge step up. So we can't like totally poo-poo this possibility. So lots of positives. Once again, 18 years of head coach experience. Aaron Rodgers, he successfully developed under him. Dak Prescott as well. He definitely might be a good thing for Caleb Williams. And I'm going to go to this story here on what is it on? It is, I always want to give credit. Oh, that's crazy. It's on Shy City. I'm just gonna go through what Brad Biggs of the Tribune had to say on 670 The Score regarding his fit. Let's talk about the playoff success. And this is on 670 The Score. Mike McCarthy, 11 playoff wins in his career. And if you guys want to do a little exercise and count the last 11 times the Bears have won a postseason game, that would take you all the way back to Wrigley Field in the, 1963 championship game, a 14-10 victory over the Giants. That is crazy. And that's why when you get these new people that come through Hallis Hall and they talk about the rich tradition of the organization, I wonder if they're really clued into how mediocre it's been for the last, say, 60 years anyways. So tons of experience. Frankly, he's the kind of choice as well that team president Kevin Warren, he's the kind of guy that Kevin Warren gravitates toward. Good track record of getting good quarterback performance. And yes, he is definitely familiar with this division, like it or not, that he's a Green Bay guy. So let's look at his time in Green Bay as well. 13 seasons, that's 06 to 2018, and his record was stellar. 125-77 with 2 ties. He made the playoffs in 9 of those seasons with an 8-year consecutive playoff streak. He also won a championship with Rodgers in 2010. The Bears are getting the first shot at him right now in this year in Dallas. Let's be fair here. Completely destroyed by injuries, a losing record, but his track record in Denver has been a good one. Once again, 49-35 over 5 years. That's 3 playoff appearances, 3 seasons in a row with a 12-5 record. I mean, this guy's had a ton of success. He's proven he's not my preferred candidate. I'm going to be honest, but only 1 playoff win. And that's in the end, the lack of postseason success. That's what likely made the decision for Jerry Jones. And they just couldn't come to an agreement on contract. I believe it was mostly on the contract length. So they parted ways. Also, another positive for what the Bears are looking for. He's an offensive coach, as so many of us want. And kind of going back into his coaching history, he was the quarterback's coach for the Chiefs, the offensive coordinator to the Saints, and San Francisco 49ers offensive coordinator as well. And this is before he became a head coach. So lots of ties specifically with the Saints that might give him a possibility to get hired in New Orleans. But the guy's worked with a number of quarterbacks as well. Rodgers, Dak Prescott. He would be tasked with helping Caleb Williams live up to his potential if Chicago hired him. And the ability for the 2024 NFL's draft's #1 pick, Caleb Williams, to develop him, that's going to determine our ceiling for years to come. So hiring an offensive coach would make sense. And the Bears seem to be the leader for the services of Ben Johnson right now. I think we're fighting it out with Vegas and Jacksonville. New England out of the running. They snatched up Mike Vrabel. I think we all knew that was a foregone conclusion. That was definitely going to help. So now we kind of examine this Dallas job opening. Does that make it a possibility that we would lose Ben Johnson to Dallas? I mean, they have a franchise quarterback. They're not afraid to spend money. Really high profile franchise. But personally, I don't really think he's going to go there as Jerry Jones. He is tough to work with. He doesn't relinquish control over pretty much every aspect of the team. I'm not really thinking Johnson to Dallas is a thing. I think he's still the Chicago Bears candidate to lose. And Dallas did him 0 favors as well. I'm talking about McCarthy. They made him wait an extra 8 days before not retaining him. It's kind of Bush League. And McCarthy seems to be the most likely fit, in my opinion, for the Saints. He's previously been an OC for them. There's some ties, but he should be a serious candidate here. He's always ran a smooth operation, something the Bears haven't had really in memory. And also he's an offensive guy, calling plays in Dallas for the last 2 years. So kind of getting to what I feel about him. I mean, maybe my issue with him is that it's not like an exciting hire, right? The thing is, though, it's a safe hire. And there's a few things that concern me. Does he field disciplined teams? That's been a huge problem in Chicago. And that's kind of the difficult part. Dallas has been one of the most penalized teams in the league under his leadership. And let's look at a 3-year span. In 2021, 141 penalties. That was the most in the NFL. In 2022, 113 penalties. That was the third most in the NFL. And then you get to the third year in a row, 2023, 46 penalties. And that was 146 penalties, excuse me. That was the most in the NFL. So in a 3-year span, they are the most penalized team in the NFL 2 out of 3 years, and the outlier year, they were number 3. So I mean, if you think about penalties, why do they happen? They happen because the players aren't good enough a lot of times, right? So they grab or that they're exhibiting a lack of discipline. They get sloppy. The Cowboys have had good players. And I'm saying the penalties are happening all across the board. So all things are pointing to a general tolerance of sloppiness. Very little accountability at times. When that continues to happen for multiple years, huge concern in my book. But I think maybe the biggest thing with me is this, and this has nothing to do with the fact that he's an ex-Green Bay Packers coach. Like, look at the eye test, looking in particular to his time with Dallas. I think the guy's offense is unimaginative. I mean, it's good during the regular season, but often it gets stale. No creativity. They have enough wrinkles necessary to keep defenses guessing. And I think that's the root of the playoff issues in Dallas. And also poor adjustments. He kind of just runs his scheme and just goes with it. And presently, I would not want him as the play caller in Chicago. And that opens up some unpredictability compared to someone like Ben Johnson, who would obviously call the plays. He'd obviously do so. So if McCarthy wants to come to town and call the offense as well, I'm completely out. I don't think he's great at that. He's a good leader, though. He runs a smooth organization. He is so much of what the Chicago Bears need. And in my book, he's a guy who manages the talent that he's given really well, but he doesn't really elevate the team as a whole. He's just kind of, in my book, meh. To me, he's a guy that we could do worse and we could do better. He's just like middle of the road. Chicago hasn't had even a middle of the road coach or a run organization in such a long time. So let's kind of close with looking at his last year in Dallas, and I think that's fair. I mean, you're looking at a standing being under scrutiny for nearly a year leading into this, right? Jerry Jones opted to bring the coach back for the final season of his contract, and that's after the blowout wildcard loss last January to the Packers. Just embarrassing. A 7 beating a number 2 seed. But McCarthy was not offered an extension, and Jones declared that the franchise would be all in for 2024. You remember that? After 3 consecutive 12-win seasons, they failed to break what was in a 28-year draft of breaching the NFC Championship game. So 3 12-win seasons in a row, decided to be all in and give him one more chance. So things started out well, but they were just dealt so many bad breaks early on. The organization's 16-game home winning streak in the regular season, that gave way to something different. 5 losses at AT&T Stadium to start the season. A 47-9 loss to the Lions in week 6. That was the biggest deficit in a home game in the whole time that Jerry Jones has owned the team. And then you started getting injuries racking up. Linebacker Micah Parsons, defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence, cornerbacks Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, just so many guys out. And then that was compounded by quarterback Dak Prescott undergoing season-ending surgery in early November. And that was for a partially torn hamstring. Really nasty injury. So many expected the team would extend a skid that eventually dropped Dallas to 3-7. But then what happened? And this is a really good sign. This is one of the reasons that I might actually be on board for McCarthy if the Bears decide to hire him. The Cowboys went on to win 4 of their last 5, and that that actually made me think that McCarthy was going to be retained. Just a tough year. But the thing I'm encouraged by, he was righting the ship regardless of losing his quarterback and a myriad of injuries on defense. So the team was still fighting and still won 4 of their last 5 games. So we're looking at Jerry Jones. He just couldn't get a deal done. And now Mike McCarthy is coming to interview at Hallis Hall. We have the first shot at him. So let's talk about it in the comments and let's look at this objectively. Is he a good fit? I know everyone's banging the table for Ben Johnson. We've got a lot of Pete Carroll fans. We're even looking at possibly Todd Monken. You've got Buffalo's offensive coordinator that's going to be in the mix this week. You guys let me know what you think about McCarthy. He is a surprise candidate. He wasn't originally on the docket, but he could be a dark horse to get this head coaching job. And he definitely fits what team president Kevin Warren looks for in a coach, and for a team president and for a GM that are really looking for a win. Maybe the sure thing of actually being a great coach, possibly not a coach that's going to get you over the hump, but Chicago Bears, they haven't even been able to get to the hump. So perhaps this might be the best hire of them all. You guys let me know. Bear down. And thanks for always being here. We will talk soon. See ya.